Welcome back to another video. The music world is in absolute shock. Justin Bieber, one of the most successful pop stars of the 21st century, has just faced one of the biggest setbacks of his career. His latest album has officially flopped. For years, Bieber was untouchable, dominating charts, selling out arenas, and pulling in record-breaking streams. But this time, the numbers tell a different story. And they aren't just bad, they're devastating. When the announcement of Justin Bieber's new album came, fans around the globe went into overdrive. Social media exploded with anticipation, media outlets hyped up the release, and even critics speculated whether this project would mark a new era in Bieber's career. For a star who had already achieved legendary status in pop music, expectations were sky high. Yet when release week finally came, reality hit hard. The buzz was there, but the music didn't deliver. Industry insiders who had followed the album's rollout closely noticed early red flags. The lead single failed to dominate charts in the way Bieber's past hits had. On streaming platforms, competition was fierce, with new-gen artists like Olivia Rodrigo, The Weeknd, and even K-pop sensations pulling bigger numbers. Bieber's marketing team promised that the full album would silence critics and prove doubters wrong. Instead, when the official numbers came in, fans and industry leaders alike were stunned. The album had underperformed badly, selling far less than projection. This wasn't just an ordinary dip in sales. It was a full-blown collapse compared to Justin's previous releases. Chart analysts began pointing out that even mid-tier artists had outsold Bieber this time around. That shocking reality sparked one big question: what went wrong? To understand the magnitude of this failure, we need to look back at Bieber's musical journey. Justin Bieber isn't just another pop singer. He is a global phenomenon. From being discovered on YouTube as a teenager to becoming one of the best-selling artists of all time, his career has been filled with record-breaking milestones. But now, with his latest album struggling to even stay relevant on the charts, critics argue that this may be the beginning of a downward spiral for the pop icon. The hype leading up to the release had been massive. Promotional teasers hinted at Justin's most personal album yet. His team rolled out glossy visuals, carefully crafted interviews, and an emotional backstory to frame the project as a career-defining moment. Fans were told to expect raw honesty, deep emotions, and a new sound that would redefine Bieber's artistry. Yet, when the album dropped, many listeners were left confused. The songs didn't connect, the melodies felt recycled, the lyrics lacked depth, and the overall production seemed rushed. Even loyal believers, the dedicated fan base that carried Justin through scandals, controversies, and career hiatuses, started questioning whether this was truly the work of a superstar who once ruled the industry. Social media comments turned harsh, with some saying they expected more from an artist of his caliber. Others openly admitted that rival artists had simply released better music in the same period. The biggest blow came when the official chart results rolled in. First-week sales are often considered the ultimate test of an album's success, and in this case, the numbers were catastrophic. For an artist who once debuted at number 1 effortlessly, Bieber's new project barely managed to scrape into the top 10 in some territories and shockingly missed the top spot entirely in several key markets. Analysts immediately called it one of the steepest declines of any major pop star in recent memory. Fans who had spent weeks hyping the release now found themselves defending Bieber online against an avalanche of negative press. Meanwhile, industry experts began to dissect the reasons behind the flop. Was it poor promotion, weak songwriting, or was it simply that Bieber's moment had passed and the world had moved on to newer stars? For Justin himself, this failure is more than just a bad week on the charts. It raises deep questions about his future in the industry. Can he bounce back, or is this the beginning of the end for one of pop's most recognizable figures? When the official numbers were released, the shockwaves spread instantly across the music industry. Justin Bieber's latest album, which was expected to dominate charts worldwide, did the exact opposite. It stumbled. Badly. For an artist whose past projects debuted with millions of copies sold, billions of streams, and near universal domination of global charts, the fall was dramatic, almost unbelievable. Billboard's weekly chart update hit like a thunderbolt. Bieber's album debuted far lower than projections. In the United States, where Bieber had always been a powerhouse, the album landed at a position that no one saw coming. Early estimates predicted a comfortable number 1 debut with over 200,000 units sold, but reality was brutal. The album managed less than half of that, a mere 90,000 equivalent units, a figure that industry experts immediately labeled alarming for a superstar of his magnitude. Streaming platforms, which once carried Bieber to record-breaking success, showed similar signs of decline. On Spotify, the album's leading track opened with weaker numbers than even mid-level artists. Instead of storming into the global top 5, Bieber's lead single struggled to stay in the top 20. This wasn't just a slip, it was a collapse. In the UK, Bieber's new album debuted outside of the coveted top 3, something that hadn't happened to him in more than a decade. Markets like Australia, Canada, and Germany also reflected the same decline. For someone with Bieber's international reach, this global underperformance was almost unthinkable. Critics quickly pointed out that the problem wasn't just with numbers, it was with perception. In today's digital age, where fan discussions dominate Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, perception often becomes reality. As soon as the numbers dropped, hashtags like #BieberFlop and #WhatHappenedJustin began trending. For the first time, Bieber wasn't being praised for breaking records, he was being roasted for falling short, comparing with past albums. To truly understand how devastating this flop was, one must look at Bieber's past performance. His 2015 album Purpose was a global juggernaut. It spawned chart-topping hits like Sorry, What Do You Mean, and Love Yourself, dominating radio and streaming for years. That album sold over 600,000 units in its first week in the US alone and gave Bieber his biggest critical acclaim. Then came Changes 2020 and Justice 2021, both of which performed solidly, if not at the same level as Purpose. They still debuted at number 1, pulling in respectable numbers that cemented Bieber's place as a consistent chart topper. Even when critics felt the music was weaker, his star power carried the sales. But this time, things were different. Instead of hundreds of thousands of first-week sales, Bieber barely crossed into 6 figures globally. Instead of dominating streaming playlists, he was being overshadowed by fresher names. The difference between his prime and his current results was staggering, almost like watching a king lose his crown in real time. Why did it flop? Analysts offered several theories. Lack of a strong lead single. Unlike Sorry or Peaches, which were undeniable hits, Bieber's new singles failed to capture the same cultural momentum. Without a viral hit, the album had no anchor. Competition. The release window was crowded. New albums from The Weeknd, Olivia Rodrigo, and even underground rap stars were pulling stronger numbers. Bieber simply got drowned out. Changing audience. Bieber's core fan base, who once camped outside record stores and spammed radio requests, have grown older. Meanwhile, Gen Z audiences are flocking to newer idols like Billie Eilish, BTS, and Olivia Rodrigo. Overexposure and fatigue. Bieber has been in the spotlight for over 15 years. Fans might simply be tired, and critics argue his music hasn't evolved enough to keep up with trends. Marketing missteps. Instead of building momentum organically, Bieber's team flooded social media with staged promos that felt disconnected. Some even accused the rollout of being lazy and uninspired. Fan reaction. The Belieber fandom, known for their undying loyalty, was thrown into chaos. Some defended Bieber passionately, arguing that sales don't define artistry. They pointed out that the album's emotional depth and rawness were being overlooked. Others, however, expressed disappointment. On TikTok, reaction videos went viral, with fans admitting they couldn't connect with the songs. On Twitter, longtime Beliebers debated whether Justin had lost his creative spark. The divide was clear. While diehard fans tried to keep the energy alive, the wider public seemed ready to move on. The internet, of course, was ruthless. Memes comparing Bieber's flop to his past glory circulated widely. Some mocked him as yesterday's star, while others questioned whether his mental health struggles in public. Controversies had finally caught up with his career. Industry experts speak. Music critics weighed in almost immediately. Rolling Stone described the album as an uninspired effort from an artist once at the top of the world. Variety noted that Bieber's attempt to reinvent himself fell flat, calling it safe, predictable, and forgettable. Meanwhile, veteran producers in the industry shared a harsher truth: the market has changed. Justin was a superstar of the 2010s, one anonymous producer said, but the sound of the 2020s belongs to someone else. Audiences want authenticity, innovation, and fresh energy. Justin feels like he's chasing trends instead of setting them. A career in question. For the first time in years, the music world is asking whether Justin Bieber can remain a chart-dominating artist. Flops happen, even to the biggest stars, but the scale of this underperformance suggests something deeper. It raises the uncomfortable possibility that Bieber may be entering the stage of his career where nostalgia carries him more than new. If true, that would be a monumental shift. Bieber has been one of the most influential pop stars for over a decade, Seeing his dominance fade so quickly is a reminder of how ruthless the music industry can be. The story of Justin Bieber's latest album flop is more than just numbers on a chart. It's a turning point. For over a decade, Justin has been one of the most recognizable faces in pop culture, a star who could turn anything he touched into gold. Yet this time, the gold turned into dust, and the world saw what it looks like when even the brightest lights begin to dim. But a flop doesn't mean the end. It means a choice. The truth behind the numbers is painful, yes, but it also gives Bieber something he hasn't had in years, a reason to fight. Many legends in music have faced the same fate before him. Britney Spears, Madonna, even Beyoncé had albums that didn't connect with the masses at first, but they used failure as fuel. They came back stronger, sharper, and more fearless than ever. Justin Bieber now stands at that very crossroads. He can either accept the decline, fade into the background of nostalgia tours and legacy playlists, or he can reinvent himself completely. Reinvention is risky, but it's also the very thing that keeps stars alive in an industry that eats its own. Fans are waiting to see which path he chooses. Despite the disappointing numbers, his loyal believers still believe in him. They flood his posts with love, defend him against harsh critics, and remind the world that Justin is more than an album's first week sales. That loyalty, if harnessed, could give Bieber the chance to stage one of the biggest comebacks of this generation. The album flop has exposed weaknesses, lack of innovation, poor marketing, and disconnect with younger audiences, but it has also highlighted something deeper. Justin Bieber is still relevant enough that the world cares when he fails. And if the world cares about your failure, it means they will definitely care about your comeback. So while the truth behind the numbers is harsh, the bigger truth is that Justin Bieber still has time to reset, time to evolve, time to create the kind of music that once made him unstoppable. Whether he chooses to embrace that journey or let this flop define him will shape the next chapter of his career. One thing is certain, the Justin Bieber story isn't over yet. The numbers may be bad, but they are just one chapter in a much larger book. The world is still watching. The fans are still listening. And somewhere, deep down, the pop icon who once sang his way from YouTube obscurity to global stardom still has the power to rise again. The industry may be questioning him, the charts may be punishing him, but Justin Bieber has faced worse before and survived. If he chooses to fight, his next move could either bury him or cement his legacy forever. And that perhaps is the real truth behind the numbers. Failure isn't the end. It's the start of something new.